It's Tuesday, February 17th, 2015. I'm Jimmy Principe.
And I'm Chuck Comstock. Put in your final orders because this is Tech's Last Call, episode 107. Your last call for tech news of the week. Tonight, Jimmy hides from Samsung and his car, and I use Google so I won't need a Facebook legacy contact. But we start tonight with potentially one of the creepiest things I've ever heard of in technology.
Yeah, that's right. This week, it was discovered that Samsung listens to its customers, just not in the way that you actually want. This week, it was actually unearthed that buried in Samsung's privacy policy for their smart televisions, that that on any of their TVs that have their voice recognition service activated, which is most of them, because that's a very big selling point for the televisions.
Yeah, when I tested that out at CES 2013,
that was the
really
only thing that you were
great.
like, that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because motion control was fundamentally bankrupt.
And guess what? It still is not the thing. So if that service is activated, that Samsung will be transmitting data collected to a third party, regardless of whether or not you're interacting with the television. So activated in the sense that you haven't turned it off.
Right.
You haven't opted out. So the language in the privacy policy was as follows, quote, so after describing that, before I read the quote, so after describing that they're using it to improve the functionality and to turn it into words so that they can give you what you asked for, it goes, quote, in addition, Samsung may collect and your device may capture voice commands and associated texts so that we can provide you with voice recognition features and evaluate and improve the features. Please be aware. Please be aware that if your spoken words include personal or other sensitive information, that information will be among the data captured and transmitted to a third party through your use of voice recognition. End quote.
I say a lot of sensitive things in my living room.
Yeah, most of which are not for public consumption.
Some of which are directed at Samsung.
So basically Samsung is saying that if I don't want every scrap of my life transmitted, I can't say it in range of their televisions,
which again is in your living room,
which is in all of your rooms if you're doing it right. So that being said, so that came out on Sunday, and then Samsung backtracked very quickly, and on Wednesday they released a change in the wording of their privacy policy, along with a long bit about, that doesn't actually describe what we do. We've updated the privacy policy to say what it is we're actually doing. So the new privacy policy says, quote, and this is a direct replacement for what was in there before, quote, Samsung will collect your interactive voice commands only when you make a specific search request to the smart TV by clicking the activation button either on the remote or on your screen and speaking into the microphone on the remote control. End quote. However, the question still remains, how much are we giving up to companies like Samsung, Amazon, and Microsoft for the convenience of a system that is always listening to obey our commands?
The companies themselves?
Or to the third parties that they're selling our data to.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that. But theoretically, the only thing it's listening for, generally, is the wake word. Again, theoretically, it's waiting for Xbox on, or Xbox, or
I'm glad
Google.
you said that, because mine's behind me, and I don't really want it turning on.
Or, mine will probably, I have to say mine pretty loud. Or Hey Siri, or Hey Alexa, or Hey Cortana, or whatever. I mean, theoretically, it's listening for.
I don't think Hey Cortana is going to activate Windows 10. Hey Cortana? Nope.
It should.
Nova.
It should.
I think I have that turned off.
Okay. Well, again, it's part of Windows Phone, the Denim. The
Windows
Denim
Phone
update.
8 phone.
No, Windows Phone
update.
8. 8.1.1, which is the Denim update, which is combined with the Denim hardware update for Nokia phones, that is slowly trickling out. It just came to the 930. Anyways, not that interesting. So theoretically, it's just waiting for just those wake words. And so it's not really recording until you say, hey, whatever. Or Xbox, whatever. And then it's or whatever the Samsung TV wake word is. That's not what really scares me. And what we all should actually be kind of wary of is the NSA, right? So now you just have these connected devices with piss poor security, not developed by people who, do this normally.
Who think.
So, Microsoft is an exception to this, but how often is Amazon thinking about device security, or Samsung, right? They're just not. Samsung's television division's not really thinking about it. Samsung phones, yeah, they have Knox and all that. But anyways, so the NSA could theoretically just be listening to you all the time because we're all just willingly putting microphones in our living rooms. That, I think, is actually worth worrying about. The Samsung thing is mostly hilarious. It's almost as funny as the woman whose hair got sucked up by the Roomba because she was lying on the floor. You want to think of something terrifying. It's that. I mean, I think I read those two stories back to back on Chris Matishchik's blog. So they are associated in my head. That being said, so I don't actually think we're giving up that much. I think this was a really bad EULA, written by someone both very paranoid and very lazy on the Samsung side. So they could just get away with whatever. And yes, after you say that wake word, if you are actively having sex at the time, someone analyzing that data may be able to figure that out, but probably not. Right? This is...
You're discussing, nuclear codes in front of a Samsung television.
Right, but if you're actually in possession of the nuclear codes, you're probably smarter than that.
God, I hope so.
The fear is what and Samsung had another gaffe this past week where they were interjecting their own advertising into their televisions.
Oh, yeah.
Where like a Pepsi ad would just show up while you were watching TV. So not like an ad break, but like the television had injected an additional ad. And that's where I think I get worried, is they have the technology to be listening to what we're saying. And right now, I don't actually think they are. They're just listening for the wake word. But what if that stops being the case? And that's why this EULA is so important, is because theoretically, they could have just been transmitted anything that you said in your apartment, basically, to third parties, like advertisers, so they can sell advertising against you. It would be basically like having cookies for all of your life. Right now, that's
which everyone with a phone is basically already doing that.
Right. But this is still to another level of
But it's very different, yeah.
This is what you're saying.
And it feels very different.
Right. It is.
I control my interaction with this thing.
Right. And I can even go in and clear it and,
Right. Well, and Google will tell me all the data that they have on me and give me the ability to delete it if I really want to.
Right. This Samsung thing opened the door for that kind of reality. That's not the actual reality that was happening, but it should be reasonably frightening that it was at least became a possibility. I don't think any of us really we kind of joked about it with the Kinect, right? But none of us really thought it would happen, and then it almost did, and that's terrifying.
So I think that for me, very paranoid people will just turn voice recognition off.
Regardless, they already did.
Yeah. And I know that when I mentioned this story to my lovely girlfriend, she said, "Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it does kind of terrify me sometimes when I think about the fact that the Kinect is always watching us." And I said, "Yeah, it's not though.
I mean,
it's not always watching you.
No, it's always watching you if the Xbox is on."
Yes, if the Xbox is on, it is always watching you.
Yeah.
But if the Xbox is off, it's not watching you.
And it's always watching you and mapping your skeleton, and it's
doing lots of crazy things.
It's doing a lot.
But Microsoft is giving you the ability to unplug it and still use the console.
Right, which actually wasn't initially the case, right?
Right, exactly. So I think that it's more of the making sure that we still react to these kinds of stories when they come out, and not just say, "Oh, well, whatever."
That's just what Samsung does. That's just their business model.
Yeah, Samsung's business model is to screw you constantly without apparent remorse.
Well, yeah, welcome to capitalism. Google is screwing you. You're the product.
Yep.
Right? You are literally the product. It's people who complain about customer service for Gmail. It's like, because you're not the customer. You're the product. You are the mouse in the trap. You are not the purchaser of the trap.
See, I guess this is my problem with Google, is that I always think of Google as the really small startup that had the cool web page back in like 2003 when I found out about it.
20 most valuable companies in the world. 97 or 95.
Huh?
It was the late 90s, not the mid 90s.
No, yeah, but I found out about it in 2003 when they were still small but not tiny. We have an in-studio guest now. But and so I always think of them like that. And when Gmail was just this beta software that didn't work right, and they kind of went, "We know it doesn't work right. We're sorry. We'll keep fixing it." And so, for whatever reason, on the services that have been around the longest for Google, I let them get away with murder because I don't expect them to work.
Right.
Gmail always does work, but I don't expect it to.
Right. No, I get that. But at some point you have to realize...
I expect Maps to work.
You have to realize that Google had an operating revenue in 2014 of $66 billion.
Yes.
And a total equity of $104.5 billion and 53,600 employees as of Q4 2014. I mean, at some point, they are not the little engine that could. They're one of the 20 most valuable companies on the planet.
And they're a data behemoth.
Right. I mean, they're the most visited website in the world.
So what are they going to do with all that data?
Sell ads. And become self-aware and take over the world. I mean, eventually.
And make it easier for us to find stuff.
I mean, that's the quote we always joke about from the Inside the Plex is, if Google might have become self-aware, it'll just help speed up the search results. Just like, Jesus. It gets scary enough that they talk not like we know or but Google knows. As if Google, and this is true, the scary thing is this is true, is that Google,
servers.
the search engine, is one entity. Interconnected all over the globe, but functioning as one entity. That should terrify any thinking person. More so than what was potentially in Samsung's EULA. Google is one organism. That organism knows something about billions of people. Google knows. And so, speaking of things that Google knows, Google is getting more medical. So they claim that
they want to play doctor.
Yeah. So they claim, and I guess they would know, that 1 in 20 Google knows that 1 in 20 Google searches are.
Wait, who's they? The search engine or like people from the company? At this point, the
humans at the company have realized what their digital learning algorithm had figured out. That 1 in 20 Google searches are medical in nature. As such, they want to improve the quality of medical search results by building their own medical content for about 400 common conditions.
It's one of those pregnancy? Because I feel like that's the most common thing that's Googled. How do you know if you are pregnant?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my Google search results are going to show that now anyways, but that's because I'm often researching pregnancy-related topics.
You have a pre-existing condition.
Right. So... these will show up in that kind of sidebar where Wikipedia content often shows up on the web search, or they'll show up as cards in the mobile app.
Okay.
They'll give information on treatment, prevalence, severity, symptoms, and in some cases, illustrations by licensed medical illustrators.
Oh, wow.
All of the information will be reviewed by Google's in-house doctors as well as independently by the Mayo Clinic. And on average, around 11 doctors will have looked at each entry before they go up.
Wow.
Obviously, they don't think that this will replace doctors or substitute seeing one. If you believe you are actively pregnant, seek medical help. They can help you, it's ultrasound and, and vitamins and, I have a degree in public health. Anyways. The idea actually seems to be twofold. One, they want to improve the quality of medical search across the web, right? There's a lot of bad information out there. And so they want to have good information readily accessible. In the end, it's still Google. The other part of this is they want to empower people as they continue to research across the web, give them a basic level of correct information to inform the rest of their research, and to empower them when they're talking to their medical professional, that they have a base level of knowledge that's grounded in decent facts, not what I read on that one anti-vaxxing forum, but actually something useful and applicable. The concern that gets raised, for me anyways, is not actually a medical one. I think they can put good medical information out there. People are hypochondriacs, so they're just going to and guess what? Everything has the same symptoms as the flu, so you could have the flu or early stages of any number of these terrible conditions, or you could just have the flu, right? So, everything is like fever, congestion, and nausea. Like everything, all diseases involve those three symptoms. So maybe you just have the flu or you're dying. And
they're referred to as non-specific symptoms for a reason.
Right. And this will not help people who have non-specific symptoms not get really hyped about what they have, or that their heat rash is the measles or whatever. It's not going to stop that. But the concern isn't medical. I think that good information can get out there through this. I think they've built this the right way. They've got enough doctors looking at this. There's enough good medical research out there if you know where to look. And Google, you'd think they know where to look. Anyways, so the issue is actually a technological one. This is not content being made by an algorithm. Instead, Google is tapping flesh and blood humans for content creation, which is not generally their wheelhouse. The question then becomes, is Google out there to eventually replace Wikipedia and WebMD with these kind of Google human-created content sidebars?
So I would say that WebMD, maybe. Wikipedia, no. Because I think that what you'll find in most of these is they'll link out to other places.
Well, that's what they do right now. Like, they have integration with Wikipedia to make these sidebars. Wikipedia tends to be the top link when you search for most things anyways, and so they just turn it into a sidebar.
Yeah, they're usually the one you're actually looking for, so they have the answer.
Just go straight to Wikipedia, but
yeah.
That's me. I think about websites. I grew up with
not apps.
Yeah, not apps.
We'll have to discuss apps on the other show. I have a conversation for you. But anyways, I think that WebMD, something like that, is features like the symptom checker are useful. I'd say that that's 90% of what people use WebMD for.
Sure, of course.
Is the symptom checker. And
you can, if you have a fever, nausea, vomiting, congestion, you could have any number of diseases.
So I think that I like what Google is doing, but I think that what they're really trying to do is they're trying to drive people to come to, instead of, like you're saying, go to WebMD or go to Wikipedia to find the answer to this. Like Wikipedia, they could have the best article in the world on the flu, but you know what? It's written by people that know a lot about the flu, and so it's really in depth for someone that's just trying to figure out if they have it and what that means. So I think that something like a short description of, hey, these are the basic symptoms. Here's the high points of what it is, and here's some explanation. by Google could be very helpful in conjunction with Wikipedia. And then at the bottom, you'll have that, and then you'll have the Wikipedia article about it. But I think that WebMD is not really the problem on the internet as far as all of these sorts of looking up of symptoms, or you click on it, and if you click on the second entry after, or the third entry after Wikipedia and WebMD, it's always like random freaking site that wants to feed you BS.
Yep.
So the more that Google can especially like visually feed you information right on the search page, the less that you have to click on other sites and you can find that answer, the better. Because at the end of the day, Google's their whole algorithm is built around the speed of delivering the answer. And if people are searching for medical things and not finding the answer quickly, Google sees a need.
So I'm on the
And they
symptom.
know.
I'm on the symptom checker.
For WebMD.
WebMD. And so I have plugged in difficulty breathing through nose, sneezing, strange taste or smell, snoring, warm to the touch, that your head's warm to the touch, nausea and vomiting. This could be common cold, dust allergies, hay fever, allergic reaction, food poisoning, acute sinusitis, coronary artery disease, gastroenteritis, gastritis, generalized anxiety disorder, panic attack, peptic ulcer, chronic sinusitis, diabetic cheopeptisis, epilepsy, abscess, acute kidney failure, a botulinum Botex toxin injection, carbon monoxide poisoning, I'm just in the C's, chronic kidney disease, drug allergy, drug dependence or abuse, drug overdose, epilepsy again. Right, it's just, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so like if
This
you
won't
search
fix
Google
that.
for like I have a stuffy nose and a cough, it serves you WebMD as the first two things.
Sure.
But if I search for the flu,
Right, you should get the sidebar if it's rolled
then
out.
it'll pop up the sidebar, also called influenza. Shows a little picture of like someone with like in blankets with the thermometer. A common, sometimes
Actively
deadly.
hating themselves.
Yep, that's actually what it is. A common, sometimes deadly viral infection that's preventable by the seasonal flu vaccine.
Not this year, but
Not this year.
It's only
And then
like
it says
25%.
very common, more than 3 million U.S. cases per year. It's contagious, mainly spreads by social contact. Usually self-treatable, usually self-diagnosable, short term.
Right.
And then it has more information, how it spreads by social contact, such as handshakes or sneezes. So this seems more like, I wonder if I search like AIDS. Yep. If I search AIDS, it gives me a sidebar and it tells you information about it. And it's very graphic, it's very simple, and it doesn't provide you more information than you need until you start drilling into it and looking for it. It'll give you the high points.
No, I mean, I like this feature. This is a weird precedence for Google. They
But
are making content that's not
are-
algorithm driven.
That's true.
This isn't, or not user created, which is YouTube. They are making content.
They've curated content.
No, this isn't curated. This is created.
That's true.
Google is the great content curator, right? All Google is content curation. This is content creation
And
in
it'll-
a market that already exists. There is already WebMD. And so the question that I hear a lot in the industry, and the question that I have myself is this the only place they're going to do this?
I would be surprised if it's the only place that they're going to do it.
Right. And that's why I think Wikipedia needs to look out.
I don't think, but once again, I don't think Wikipedia is the one that they're going after, because Wikipedia is an organization that's like kind of the same idea as Google. Get all of the information out there and as accurately as possible. And
Yes,
Wikipedia
but they
Wikipedia
do.
delivers that in a way that Other people do not.
But it used to be, until this, that they went about it in two different ways that complemented each other. Wikipedia relied on users to make content for them and police it. Google used learning algorithms to index it. So Wikipedia was the content and Google was the index.
Right.
Google is now stepping into being the content and the index in a very small way. But as you start to spiral that out, you start to, and you are already infringing somewhat. Search for AIDS on Wikipedia, right? You know, you're already infringing somewhat on Wikipedia's turf in one small subject area. But if this keeps widening out and keeps widening out and keeps widening out, eventually, if what you're doing is not going straight to Wikipedia, but just Googling a thing, you're just going to get the Google-created sidebar and less the Wikipedia.
I mean, I think that this is probably a 10% project by somebody.
Sure. No, I mean they have
And-
they have actually an on-staff medical guy. He's
okay.
And I know what his. I can tell what I cared about. I know what his degree qualifications is: MD, MPH, PhD, which is the
wow.
right number of degrees, right set of degrees for this. What is unpronounceable name? Dr. Kapil Parka.
Oh, that's right.
Paraka. Parakh.
But I think that what this is in other news this week that we're not really talking about is the fact that Google is shutting down their, what was that stupid service called? The one where you could, if you needed expert help.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what it was
I
called,
don't remember
but
what it's called
they're
either. Clearly, we used it all the time.
they're shutting it down, and they only announced it last year. So I think that this is another thing where they're trying to find a way to serve expert information to their users. And we'll see if they expand it and how much they expand it. I don't think Wikipedia is the one that needs to watch out, though. I think WebMD is the one that needs to watch
In
out.
the immediate future, yes, obviously, it's WebMD. So switching
Google will
from
just buy Wikipedia.
No, yeah. No, it can't. You can't buy a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit, but they can become the sole funder of Wikipedia.
Right, but not without Wikipedia. You can't hostile take over a nonprofit.
They could try.
No, hostile
Google.
takeover means there has to be stock for sale so that you can, buy, basically appoint your own board members. Wikipedia would have to sell to them, which I don't think Wikipedia would do. Now, Google can gain influence at Wikipedia through heavy donation, absolutely.
Right.
But it's still up to Wikipedia whether they let that be an influencing factor or not.
Mm-hmm.
So switching from Google helping us live to Facebook helping us die. Well, most of us will probably outlive Facebook. As the preacher at my grandfather's funeral said, the mortality rate on this planet is eventually 100%. To help deal with this fact, Facebook has beefed up how they handle accounts of people who have passed away. Up until now, there was a simple option of switching the account over to a memorial account with no real way to interact with it. Now, you can designate a legacy contact who will be able to accept friend requests, post a message that will stay on top of your profile, and change your profile and cover photos on your behalf after you die. If you allow it, they can also download your profile, posts, and photos, or delete your account entirely. However, they will not be able to read your messages. Even on Facebook, some things don't have to be shared with posterity. So, Jimmy, will you be designating a legacy contact?
Not in the near future, because Facebook. I don't know. This is a good idea because they've received some flack for how people passing away and their Facebook accounts have been handled. So I think that by them saying, "Look, ball's in your court. Here, you tell us who you want to have control," and and you can say, I just want you to delete my account if I'm
Yeah,
reported as passing away.
Yeah.
Like, and they'll just delete it.
And also, like, your legacy contact, and like if someone's trolling a Facebook page, they can delete all the trolling posts, which wasn't an option before. I mean, there's a lot of, good that can come out of this, and I think, sociologically, it's kind of cool that these Facebook pages can live on, and have it's kind of how it becomes, your digital tombstone. It becomes a place where people can go and feel connected with you even after you've passed on.
But even the like, you can't delete posts that existed before the account was made a legacy account.
Right. Yeah.
So everything that was in the account prior to that is locked in stone. You can't delete it. You can't do anything to it except for download it if that ability has been given to you. But I think that this is a great idea by Facebook, and I think that it's another, like, speaking of Google and trying to get you to stay on their website, this is another way of Facebook's, like, making sure that they remain relevant. But I did you look at that XKCD? So there's a what if. I don't know if people are familiar with the XKCD comics online, but they have a what if comic that is basically what if there's more dead Facebook accounts than live ones.
Or when will that point happen? When there are more dead people on Facebook than live people on Facebook. And so if Facebook stops growing, or stops being relevant, that point will be 2060. And if Facebook continues kind of being a fixture of the internet, it'll be more like 2130. But at some point, right now it's mostly young people, so this doesn't come up a lot. I've mostly run into it not with people who've died tragically, suicides or car wrecks, whatever.
Yeah.
Because again, Facebook, although its average age is creeping up, is still mostly young people. But this is going to become increasingly relevant at some point, or Facebook is just going to stop being relevant. And this is, I don't know. I think on some level, you get fixed. At some point, we're going to get fixed in our ways. Technological change is all very interesting, and while we're young. But I think at some point, even our generation is going to hit a wall where they're not going to want to learn the next thing.
Oh, and you can see people in our generation already hitting that wall with the way that, like, Microsoft is changing Windows and how Apple is changing stuff. Like, all this change that people liked so much before, people are starting to say, well, why? I know how to use the old thing.
Right. And so I wonder if
I think in 5 years, our generation is going to be seen as, like, stuck in our ways.
And my point with that is, maybe that's what keeps Facebook around. We're using Facebook now, so we'll probably just keep using it. And we'll just become more lucrative to advertisers, so Facebook will be able to keep going and be a valuable company. And Mark Zuckerberg is pretty smart, and he sees what the kids are using, and he buys it, right? He uses the money he's making off of us to buy the things that the kids are using, Instagram and WhatsApp. So I think Facebook as a company and as a service are going to stick around because it's what we're so used to using. Keep in mind, Facebook's been around for more than 10 years now. I've had a Facebook account for almost 10 years. And I was there within the first year or so. I'm coming in May. I will have had a Facebook account for 10 years. That's a long time to be using a piece of technology. Now, it's changed a lot in 10 years. But Facebook is one of the few services that I have been using consistently for this entire 10 years. If maybe the only one.
Come September, I will have had my Gmail account for 10 years.
Right. I wasn't that early on in Gmail. I had my college mail, and I had a Roadrunner account through my internet, through my home ISP. Yeah. And then it wasn't until 2008 that I got a .me. And I've had that longer than I think I have, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, Facebook, I think, is the only kind of digital service that I'm still using from when I started college. So maybe this has, people keep thinking it's going to die. I think at some point it's going to stop growing because it's just going to, if it hasn't already, because it's just going to hit saturation.
It's hit saturation in the United States, I believe.
But, I think Twitter, will die. But I've been saying that for years, and apparently it's the gift that keeps on giving.
It's all the bots following each other.
It is, right? It's just bots. Speaking of bots, cars? What?
Yeah, you're not safe from cyber attacks, especially from the bots, even in your car. At least that's what a new report from the office of Senator Ed Markey, Democrat, Massachusetts. That's what he's saying, at least. Markey surveyed 16 different automakers last year, including Ford, GM, Toyota, a bunch of other ones. The three that didn't comment were Aston Martin, Lamborghini, and Tesla.
Well, Lamborghini just uses Audi's system.
Yeah.
So if Audi responded, then you're good there.
Yeah, I think Audi
Aston
responded.
Martin, I don't know actually where they source theirs. I think they use the Volvo rigs.
I think they do.
I don't actually remember. But they're not making their own stuff, and it's probably all QNX.
None of the other than Tesla, the other two are not making
Tesla's
their own.
using Android.
Which we know is very secure. So all these automakers were asked what they were doing to protect their advanced systems within their cars from hackers. Now, according to the report, nearly 100% of vehicles on the market include wireless technologies that could pose vulnerabilities to hacking or privacy intrusions, end quote. But, quote, security measures to prevent remote access to. That's really interesting. I copied that out of there, and there's a typo. Prevent remote access to vehicle electronics are inconsistent and haphazard across different manufacturers, end quote. So, in fact, only two of the manufacturers that were able to describe any way that they had to diagnose and respond to a potential infiltration in real time, which I'm not sure is something that's that big of a thing. But anyways, not only that, the report goes on to describe that automakers are collecting data on driving history and vehicle performance, and many are transmitting that data wirelessly to either first-party or third-party data centers. It's not clear what this data is specifically used for, but there's no way to opt out of the data collection, which, is potentially concerning. So, Trey, how worried should we be about our cars getting hacked and our driving data being collected?
Probably
if I'm
more
a teenager, I'm really worried about my driving data getting collected because, I'm at my girlfriend's house and I'm not supposed to be. So,
right. That'll be a reality that when I have teenagers, they will have to deal with this fact that they're being tracked.
You're going to chip them, I know.
Yeah, I'm going to chip and pin my teenagers. Catch and release strategy. You put the big collars on the tigers and they go around, and it's going to be a lot like that. Probably, you should be more worried about it than you are. And there's a lot of if statements in this, though. If your car has a data connection, which is not all that common.
Yeah, it's really only the high-end cars
currently
right now that have that. So the Mercs, the high-end Mercs have it. The Tesla has it. Audi has it.
And it's trickling down. As these things do, it's trickling down. You can now get...
Chevy has it.
Some Chevys, some Ford trucks.
Do the trucks have it now?
Yeah, I think some of the trucks have the hotspot
None of the
feature.
None of the cars have it.
Right. So, anyways, this is becoming more common. But you gotta wonder how connected those systems really are. So what's collecting your driving data versus what's attached to the internet makes a difference. Now, with the Audi system, for instance, they're live streaming Google Maps into your head unit. So the GPS in the car is connected to the internet. So they can get where you're going. But for a lot of these, it's for hotspots and infotainment, and it may not even have access to the OBD2 port, which is where the real car data is coming in. And so they may be able to hack your Spotify, but there are probably easier ways to hack your Spotify. But it depends what this data is that it can get to.
Yeah. So as long as the systems, and that's kind of my feeling on this right now, especially in my car, and my car is a few years old, almost 4 years old now. It's 4 model years old. I have basic Bluetooth. I have sync, but all of those systems are separate from the actual car.
Right.
And the only thing the sync system does interface with the actual operation of the car computer. But the only thing I think it does is I think it looks at it can pull. Okay, I need this information.
Well, I mean,
because it can generate a vehicle health report.
Right. So then actually that's vulnerable. So that probably you can exploit that to then get whatever you want.
Right.
So that system, but
so you
that
can
system,
get information out of my car that way.
But that system isn't web connected.
Right.
But clearly they're not thinking about it. So I really do think we probably should be more worried about this than we are. Especially when you can do like scary things like hack your car and shut it down, or hack your car and disable the brakes. These are nightmare scenarios.
But for me, as I'm less worried about the privacy information as far as like you finding out what's going on in my car, like whatever.
But it's
in most
GPS
cases,
data though.
The GPS data is more concerning. My car doesn't have a GPS.
But most of the cars that have this feature also have GPS.
But yeah, the GPS data is concerning, but I'm more concerned hacking wise of you getting into the actual driving systems of my car and killing me.
Yeah, sure. And
as long as the systems stay separate, I'm going to be less concerned about the hacking. The second that the systems are integrated, I'm very concerned about hacking.
Well, I mean, you look at the BMWs and the Audis, they have those kind of within the head unit, they have those drive profile things, right? Where you can dial in what your M button does, the suspension stiffness, the brake feel, the whatever. And you also have, park it yourself systems with your electronic power steering. All of those now seem to be all integrated into one system, pulling the sensors and the head unit and all of it. And so if that's all existing within one CPU, which is my understanding, within this head unit, then it's all accessible. The GPS data, the power steering, the brakes, all of this. And, we're moving closer and closer to drive, a lot more cars, and some already are, being drive-by-wire. Which is to say, it's all the control inputs that you're doing are going through a computer and out to the brakes, right? So you're not actually hitting a lever that pushes the brakes. You're hitting a switch that tells software how much you want to brake, and then software brakes. If that's all happening within one head unit, and that head unit is hackable, it's more than your personal information that's at risk. It's your very life. And on that note, we're going to transition to this week's last call. Which kind of happens in space.
Space, the final frontiers.
It's also super geeky.
Was without doubt the worst episode ever.
I think we should call it your grave.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
I made these intros. We're going to use them.
I missed the Geeks Anonymous intro.
That's a good one.
So we have further proof that not only our astronauts, but our space program have a sense of humor. A promotional poster for Expedition 45 to the International Space Station was released this week, showing all of the astronauts dressed as none other than Jedi Knights and wielding their very own lightsabers. The font on the poster is rendered in the Star Wars style and is titled, quote, "The International Space Station Expedition 45. The Science Continues." End quote. This isn't the first time that expedition crews have done a parody poster, especially for like Space or Geeks Anonymous. The Expedition 21 parodied Star Trek with them all wearing different colored Star Trek uniforms.
Who wore the red shirt?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Expedition 30 used the Beatles' Abbey Road album. And last but not least, Expedition 42, which parodied The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy
Right.
because, they are the answer.
Yeah.
So what should they parody next?
I don't know. Maybe
There's a ton of these.
you could
There's
do
a
Guardians of the Galaxy. That would be good.
Oh yeah,
The
no, Guardians of the
Avengers,
Galaxy.
That would be good. Kind of superheroes in general, but certainly like the Avengers or X-Men. You have a lot of kind of variety in that. You want something that has a good team component to it. You could do the Big Bang Theory. You could each dress up as Big Bang Theory characters, because that's Big Bang Theory goes to space. So they already had like kind of a NASA component. So now you could have people who go to space doing the Big Bang Theory. That could work.
Oh, they missed it. So Expedition 40
Uh-huh.
kind of has the Firefly font going.
But did
It's
they
Red
dress up
Planet.
as...
No, they didn't. It's a red planet with the Firefly font for Expedition 40. These are awesome.
I'm glad someone at NASA has a sense of humor and understands what Photoshop is. Like, this is beautiful.
Yeah, no, this is pretty hilarious.
So on that note, we should probably get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us on this slightly delayed version of Text Less Call. If you have any feedback for the show, podcast at textlesscall.com, facebook.com/textlesscall, pinterest.com/textlesscall, or at textlesscall on the Twitters. However you find us, we'll be seeing you on the interwebs. That's the wrong button. That's the right button.